Hello, it's Niara again. I'm here to talk today about discernment. Just wondering if anyone is tuning in just yet. Anyway, for those of you that have my book, hopefully you were able to read the chapter 23 on resonance, dissonance, and discernment. Discernment is a big deal because one of the things that I've thought of for a very long time is there's so much information being put out into the world, and oh boy. And there's, how do you know if it's true? How do you know if it's not true? It is just, it's really hard to try to fathom, what's going on and what's real and what isn't. So I wanted to do this talk to try to shed some light on that. And I'm kind of just jabbering a little bit to give people time to join the call. So what's the first thing that I could say about discernment? I think I'm going to just read a little bit from this chapter that I printed out from my PDF copy of my book. And hear what it says. It says, "Consider that with our expanded abilities turned off, unacknowledged or not perceivable, we are in many ways equivalent to someone blind, deaf, and dumb on our own world. Without intuition, minds, and emotions working together, we run the risk of being completely suggestible and gullible to every story that crosses our paths, even when there is an inherent danger in such blind acceptance, or we lose all ability to trust and become suspicious to paranoid, wary or afraid of any source or information." So I see a lot of that happening. There's a lot of skeptics. They've been fooled enough times, and they're like, this is bullshit, that's bullshit. I saw some of it just before coming on the live presentation. And the thing is what does interfere with it? We've had such extensive programming down through the ages. Not just in the 20th century, not just in the electronic or information age. This concerted effort to hold down our expanded abilities has spanned the centuries. If we look back at something like the Spanish Inquisition, which was basically perpetrated mainly on women healers and midwives, those who knew herbal lore, those who did rely on their intuitive gifts to help to heal the sick and the injured. They were burned at the stake, they were thrown in prison, they were tortured, they were beheaded, any number of things. And that kind of conditioning that went on for years during the Spanish Inquisition, it leaves quite an imprint in the genetic memory. So we're born into a world where we do not trust our own gut feelings, because we've been told, if we do, it's dangerous, okay? Now today, it's not as dangerous as it used to be, but it still gets ridiculed and put down. And I think of a line from Star Wars, the first movie, where Obi-Wan is teaching Luke about the Force, and, has him fight with a helmet where he can't see because the blast shield is down, and Han Solo just waves his hand and dismisses it as if it's just your imagination. Well, imagination is really an incredible gift from the Creator. It's imagination coupled with our emotions that helps create the world we live in. If the saying that our thoughts create the world is true, then we need to be watching what we think. And if our thoughts create the world, then those who manage the information and control what we take in, that they control what we see, what we hear, all of that. It's a huge power, and they wield it quite well. And they wield it from a lot of arcane knowledge deep in the Illuminati and the elites' knowledge base, which is stuff that we are not really privy to. So they are wielding a weapon against us, and we are kind of all unknowing. but in this day and age, I believe that we're beginning to figure it out. Okay, so if any of you guys have questions for me, I would ask that you type them into the field below the video, and I will look through all the questions and do my best to answer them. So anyway, back to imagination. Creative imagination is an incredible faculty. It's not something to be dismissed or ridiculed or pushed aside in favor of other types of information. It's really the vital tool that we have for creating a new world. And as I said in the video with Corey Good and David Wilcock, every negative thing you look at out there, you can turn it 180 degrees to the positive. Okay, so again, using the chemtrail sky as an example, if you see a chemtrail sky and it's aggravating you, it's making you angry and everything, just flip it around and think, okay, well, there it is, and what I'd like to see is this. And you look up in the sky and imagine that it's a nice, clear blue sky like we used to have when a lot of us were children. So, but it needs to be an ongoing endeavor by all of us to begin flipping the negative events that show up in front of us, that the elites and the media are really glad to be pushing all that in front of us all the time, as much as they possibly can, to keep the fear down. Now, ages ago, not ages, maybe 10 years ago, I watched a video by Greg Braden where he was talking about emotions and DNA. And I think there's a video still on YouTube about this. So when he did this video about DNA and the emotions, he actually showed scientific evidence for the fact that our DNA, in the presence of the emotion of fear, our DNA will wind up very tightly and be kind of scrunched together, because it kind of is like a spiral. So it can wind out, or it can, you know, bunch up together, kind of like a slinky. You know, you pull it out and it's expanded, and you put it together and it's like a little stack. So when the emotions of love and joy and contentment are present, then the DNA relaxes and stretches out. Okay? When fear, anger, rage, you know, the negative emotions are present, then the DNA is going to wind up closer together. And the reason this is a problem is because when it's wound out by the positive emotions, those positive emotions go through the DNA like a waveform, and they light up more of the codons of that supposed junk DNA and make us more expanded beings. So right there, in a nutshell, if you connect the dot between that information from Greg Braden and then the other information from you know, that we get from the media that is so much fear porn and so on and so forth, it becomes very clear that the powers that be that are cranking out all the fear are doing it specifically to keep our DNA from activating all those extra codons that could make us evolve into the living beings that we are meant to be. And that's just one aspect of it. You know, many of you already know that we're attacked under our foods with GMO foods. We are also under attack from the pharmaceutical angle. You know, the information, the chemtrails, and what they're doing to our environment and to us. There is a lot that is really trying to be done to make sure that we never realize our spiritual evolutionary potential. And it's really vital that we do realize and activate that evolutionary spiritual principles and our, you know, our abilities, so that we can take the world back and make it into what we want. And I have to believe that when the ETs put us here, you know, there were good and there were bad, both meddling with us. The bad ones came from the legend of, from Africa, from Credo Mutwa, when he talked with David Icke about the fact that the Chitauri is what he called them. They came down and they had all the people go into different caves, 2 different caves, and then a light would flash in the cave, and that group of people that was in there would come out and they would be male, and then there would be another light flash in the other cave, and the people coming out of there would be female. So apparently in his legend, we were once one sex, and then we're divided into 2 sexes. And I believe a lot of other genetic benefits that we had, genetic abilities that we had, were also disconnected and shut down in that process. Whether it was the Chitta Uri, and whether it happened exactly the way Credo Mutwa says, or whether it happened slightly different, doesn't really matter. There's evidence out there from all of us involved in the UFO and extraterrestrial field of interest that something happened to shut down our expanded abilities. And they're desperately trying to keep those expanded abilities shut down. The way that discernment figures into this is looking at the information that comes to us, either vocally, through the internet, through the radio, through the television, through the print media, and being able to assess what it actually is telling us. So, let me see here. Got that. One of the things that David Wilcox says is that I heard in a recent presentation. I think I watched a little bit of his presentation from Contact in the Desert. And he said that what we're in right now is a spiritual war. And I completely agree with this, because as far as I'm concerned, there is only one war going on the planet, and it's a war against the expansion and activation of human consciousness on a collective scale. Teilhard de Chardin spoke of it as the noosphere, a field of human knowledge and thought that surrounds the entire planet, of which we're all a part. Carl Jung postulated it as the collective unconscious. And that brings me to another point that I'd like to put in here a little bit, which is how our minds have been compartmentalized. Okay, we have a conscious mind, which we're using right now for you listening and me speaking to you over this media. Okay, and then we have a subconscious mind where we hold all of our all the difficulties of our emotional nature, things that have happened to us that scare us, that frighten us, that hold us back in certain ways because we never look at them. Okay, so those are in the subconscious. And then there's the superconscious mind, which really connects to the spiritual realm. And it's my feeling that these things are not supposed to be in their own compartments, separate from the rest. We've got to find the way in which they all connect with each other and work together. So the conscious mind is kind of, to me, the input port, so to speak, of how we take the information in. But then our subconscious will process it according to our experiences, our genetic memory, our life experiences in this lifetime, and it will put it into certain perspectives based on what each one of us is holding in our subconscious. And some of us are holding very similar things in our subconscious because we're part of the whole human connective. And then there are those parts that are held within from our own individual experience when we're born and take form and go through our lives on this planet. So anyway, we should have those working more together. And one of the things that has really been disturbing to me is a lot of the law of attraction. Now, the law of attraction is a real thing. It really does work. But most people have only been told half the truth about it. Okay, if you're trying to be out there manifesting your perfect life and you're trying to use the law of attraction, you may hear these things about you have to shun all negativity, otherwise it'll sabotage your efforts at manifestation. But the thing of it is, if you started the manifestation project and you're not manifesting your absolute perfect life, perfect relationship, perfect health, perfect everything, then what's in the way? It's that crap that's being held in the subconscious. Your subconscious fears, doubts, insecurities, the things that we grew up with, the things that impacted our lives that we stuffed in there because we really don't want to deal with it. It's those kinds of things that we have to look at. And those kinds of things tend to pop out in our environment, in front of our eyes, out in the world. Okay? So if something scary comes along, the subconscious may kind of move forth a little bit and say, oh, that relates to this other piece we have down here. We better stow that here. So we have this image that comes to us that's scary. And then we take it in and we process it in a particular way and we try to stick it away, and then we try to go back to love and light and let's try to manifest the perfect stuff and everything else like that. But until you deal with what's in the subconscious and try to bring it to light, a lot of the manifestation efforts are going to not quite work. They're not going to, they're just not going to manifest because of the other energy that you're holding in the subconscious. So again, using your everyday life and the things that show up that you don't like, and that happens to me too. I'm just an ordinary person like the rest of you, okay? So things show up in my environment that have things to teach and tell me. And I do my best to listen to them and put them in a place that isn't connected to all that crap in the subconscious. I try to process them and bring them to some kind of completion. So anyway, let's kind of move on here. Let's see. Okay, so now we're going to look at what is resonance and what is dissonance. And I've got a couple of things I got to grab here. I'll go get them in a minute. So anyway, the World English Dictionary Online related best to the word of resonance when I found it for my book. And it says its definition was a sound produced by a body vibrating in sympathy with a neighboring source of sound. So we know that if we have two tuning forks and we strike one and hold the two together, they'll both begin to vibrate in sympathy. Okay, the same is true of us. The same is true of human beings. We see it in entrainment all the time. Like if you see two people sitting on the sofa and one has the arm out this way and maybe a leg crossed, and then the other person somehow, if they're having an experience of resonance together or harmony together, then the other person often will stretch their arm out the opposite direction until you have a mirror image position. You know, have one person with the arm out this way and the legs crossed a particular way, and then the other person will be like this and their legs will be crossed the opposite way, and they will form almost a mirror image. That's called entrainment. And it happens when people are in sympathy with each other, with not sympathy as feeling sorry for someone, but sympathy as in picking up the same vibration and vibrating together. So that's what resonance is. I'll read the dictionary definition one more time. Sound produced by a body vibrating in sympathy or in harmony or in resonance with a neighboring source of sound, or living beings vibrating in resonance with each other. Okay, in contrast, dissonance is the opposite of resonance. Dissonance is produced when sounds or energies played together or in simultaneous proximity to each other produce disharmony, discord, or cacophony. It's unpleasant, intolerable noise, even energetically. And one of the most profound examples of that I ever had was when I woke up from a nightmare I was having about a shadow being. And the shadow being was actually still in the room with me when I woke up. I could see it as a translucent black form over by my window, and I could see the window on the other side through it. And the feeling in the room with that being in there was as horrible as someone crashing their hands down on an organ and every chord they hit was a discord. Every chord they hit, every note they hit was in conflict and fighting against and vibrating against the other note. And I'm not saying that I heard a sound in the room, but the energy of that being was very similar to that kind of energy. It was just absolute discord. And right now I'm going to walk away just for a second and I'm going to go get my musical example to show you what I'm talking about. I knew it was here somewhere. So anyway, so I have here a harmonica and a pitch pipe, and it's the fastest way to get to this. I have a keyboard too, but it's got so many different things to try to get through, it's a little difficult to use. So this, to me, is the sound of harmony, and I'm asking you to listen to it not just as sound, but listen to it and how it lands in your body. you know, and then we'll have the contrasting sound. Okay, so this is an example, a musical example of resonance. Okay, so now again we're going to have the example of dissonance, which I will do this here. Okay, so those are two very different sounds, one pleasant, one not. Okay, and when incoming information comes to you from any form of information, electronic media, written media, whatever, okay, it's going to have an energy signature that will be similar to one of these energies, one of these musical energies that I just played for you. And it will land in your body in a particular way. Okay? And the things that interfere with it, which I have in this chapter that I have put out here, let me just kind of get this up here. Okay. Sorry about that. I do have things. Okay. So I guess the other things to look at are truth and disinformation, and how that is structured to try to get people to swallow it. You know, it's kind of like a pill. So sometimes the thing that I see the most in the media and in any kind of information that gets shoved our way that we're expected to just swallow and accept is information. The most insidious and most effective form of disinformation is where a lie, you know, the people that are putting out the information, they want you to believe a certain thing that is most likely a lie. So they will take their lie, and then they'll take something true to put with the lie, like a candy coating on a bad pill, a bad tasting pill. Okay, so you have to watch as the information is produced. You need to look at it carefully about which parts of it resonate for you and which parts don't. And, you know, the truth is married to the lie to get us to accept the lie. And that is one form. And then there are other forms of untruth, like withholds, like simply not telling the truth, trying to keep it hidden and trying to keep people from even looking in a particular place. So we see a lot of that in the media where it's like, hey, look at this over here. No, don't look at that over there. We got this big thing going on over here. You better pay attention to this. This could be dangerous, you know. And meanwhile, there's something going on over here that we need to be paying attention to and are not, because this other thing is waving its hands trying to get our attention. So that's another one. Just trying to get to this point here that I wanted to do. It's been kind of a rough and challenging day here. Accessing intuition. Let's see. Frequencies of truth and disinformation. Okay, so let's look at truth. Let's kind of look at the anatomy of truth. Truth is like a single note from a musical instrument. It has a resonant, clear, clean vibration. Truth simply is. It's usually apparent to many people unless something's trying to cover it up. Okay, so let's see. If truths about any act or occurrence would bring consequences down on someone's head if they were known, and this person or group fears those consequences, such in the pedophilia business that's going on today, then out of fear, they will lie. Okay, and there are various ways to lie. There are direct lies, there is denial, there are half lies, where you put the truth and the lie together, and then there are lies of withholding, simply not saying anything. All of these kinds of lies are kin to each other. Direct lies seldom hold up in the light of truth, because the truth of a thing simply is. So that's direct lies are probably the least amount used by the elites and the media. Withholds are non-disclosures that hold back the truth of what exists or what has been brought into being behind barriers of secrecy. These types of lies can be very dangerous. UFO secrecy is effectively free energy secrecy, and the resulting environmental damage affecting life on this planet has been and continues to be very real. If technology that has been discussed in conspiracy circles on the web has even a shred of truth to it, then things like Project Bluebeam, scalar weather, earthquake, volcano control technologies like HARP and chemtrails are a real threat to unsuspecting populations around the world. Because most people cannot conceive of the kind of psychopathic inhumanity that some powerful individuals are capable of in their quest for power and control, they will not comprehend or accept such inhumanity is real fact. They will also shun the thought that such exotic technologies could exist or be used against them. So that was an example of the withholds. Denial is when one knows the truth. Denial when one knows the truth is another kind of direct lie. And direct lies are not quite so good. Half-lies are some of the most insidious. Liars have learned that direct lies are often flawed from their inception, especially from an energetic and vibrational sense. What's more, I suspect those with access to secret knowledge and research regarding what truly constitutes a human being, or a spiritual being having a human experience, to know that humanity has a latent sixth sense. Sayings like, I have a hunch, or I have a gut feeling illustrate this. Unfortunately, when people are so conditioned and indoctrinated to a bubble world reality, which is the matrix reality that I'm kind of talking about here, they can mistake hunches or gut feelings for emotionally based cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance is another thing that we need to be looking at. Let me get to that page here for a second. Yeah, the term cognitive dissonance has been coined to describe the internal conflict that arises within individuals who encounter information that challenges their cherished beliefs. The energy and vibration of truth is incompatible, dissonant, with ideologies based in indoctrination through institutional structures with agendas of control. And again, the most hidden and covert reason for this is to stop or slow the expansion of human consciousness. I mean, we look around us and there's so many things wrong in the world, but the real deep, deep truth is it's about obscuring our ability to access our own expanded selves. And this is what we really must do, and we must learn to exercise those muscles, if I can call them that. They're not really true muscles, but they're abilities that need to be exercised. And again, we go back to this thing of creative imagination. On a unified collective level, if our thoughts make the world, then we can remake the world. And I would say just a little bit more about that, because our thoughts and our emotions are meant to work together. Okay? Our thoughts are kind of the creative formulation of like looking at and wanting to see the blue sky, even though it's not a blue sky maybe when you're looking at it. Close your eyes, you imagine the beautiful blue sky and everything that goes with it. Beautiful wind, nice weather, sunshine, and so on and so forth. Okay, that is using the creative imagination. And it's kind of like building a circuit board. So I'm using an electronic example, which I was trained in electronics in the military. So the electronic example is this. So we're building a little circuit board, okay? And we choose resistors and capacitors and other components to make it do what we want it to do. In case in electronic training school, we wanted to light a little LED light. So basically, we built the circuit board. We soldered all the components into place on that circuit board. And then what made it work? Electricity, energy. Energy in motion, which is emotions. Emotions is energy in motion. So it's kind of like we build the circuit board with our thoughts and our creative imagination, and then we apply our emotional energy to it, and that's what lights it up. That's what makes the manifestation occur. But by looking at the things that are wrong in the world, and instead of being afraid of them, turning them around 180 degrees to use them to visualize something positive and something beautiful in its place. You know, we have a devastated ecosystem in this planet in many ways. But we remember from childhood, from movies and films and everything else like that, what a pure, pristine environment should look like and what it should be. So we have that knowledge inside of us. That's part of our genetic knowledge too, because each one of us lived as an indigenous person eons ago on this planet in one lifetime or another. And we can draw on those memories of what a beautiful natural environment was like way back then, and feel the feelings of it in our body. Just feel like, oh, that would be so beautiful to just have that. You know, I want that. Let's put that out there. Okay, let's put that energy out there and let's infuse it with the beautiful emotions of joy and love and what it would make us feel like to actually have that. That's the thing. So this is what we have components of here in using discernment, is we look at what is, even if we don't like it, and then we take it and we turn it 180 degrees into its exact opposite, which is a condition that we do want. That way we're using the very powerful problem-solving capacity that we human beings have, that we've been using since we became human beings, to interface with our environment and solve problems. I mean, we're problem-solving beings because our survival depended on it. So let's take this and make this into a new problem-solving task for ourselves, or a joyful work, where we look at what's wrong in the world, we see it for what it is, and then we turn it 180 degrees around and visualize something beautiful in its place. And it has to be something that we do on an ongoing thing. We can't just do it on Sundays or on Mondays or at one time a week, I'm going to do this. Okay, it's something as we move through our lives, we need to be doing it on a daily basis, maybe even on a minute-by-minute basis. As something comes into our sphere of knowing or perceiving that we don't like, turn it 180 degrees around and visualize its opposite and how that would make you feel emotionally, to infuse that vision that you're having in that moment with your beautiful, loving, contentment and joy-filled energy. Okay, so there's that. And let me check my time here. So we're at 4:30. Let's see if there's anything more that I wanted to do here. Let's see. Get that. I want to say a little bit about discernment and how it differs from judgment. So I'm going to read again from this paper I have here, which is part of my book. So discernment has, to me, come to mean the developing the ability to feel and sense in an ever deeper way the energies around us emanating from people, places, things, and situations. We may experience these as resonant, dissonant, or neutral. Such sensory information run through our feeling filters can inform us in a way that helps us to assess the benefits or risks of a particular course of action. Rather than proceeding from sets of structured beliefs or ideologies drilled into us by rote, processed through the mind, we become receptive and responsive to the dance of energies swirling about us in our world. By their feel to us, we move closer to what we harmonize with and away from that which jangles our energy system as a discord. Judgment, being something different from discernment, from where I stand today, is an extract, often emotionally charged, that comes from indoctrination to rigid sets of belief systems when people encounter something that runs contrary to their particular ideologies. If the belief systems are not open, fluid, and responsive to change and new information, creating an evolving process of reformulation as new ideas come to light, then judgment is the result, rigid, unyielding, and resolute. An adversarial stance of "don't try to confuse me with the facts, my mind is made up," refuses to even try to think outside of its paradigm box. From a black and white mindset, we would say that bad judgment is the product of a closed mind, while good judgment flows from a more open mind, a willingness to hear and see, though the outcome may still be influenced by indoctrinated belief systems. The term cognitive dissonance has been coined to describe the internal conflict that arises within individuals who encounter information that challenges their cherished beliefs. The energy and vibration of truth is incompatible, dissonant, with ideologies based in indoctrination through institutional structures with agendas of control. So as we continue to consciously choose harmony and create harmony in our lives and environments, our bodies and therefore our consciousness can begin to unwind and expand. And then the energy of the positive emotions can flow through the codons of our DNA, turning on more of our expanded abilities. This is one more reason why, when I look at the sheer scope of corporate exploitation and invasion into every area of our lives for power and financial gain, I have to conclude that the most hidden and covert reason for it is to stop or slow the expansion of human consciousness. So, let's see here. Is there anything more I want to do this? Mustering up local militias and creating civil wars to try to wrest power from the elite groups of this world is not the answer. If we have not learned by now that war and terror only perpetuates more of the same, then there is little hope left for us as a species. It's time for a new strategy, one based in spiritual evolution and understanding of the power of our own consciousness, especially as a unified collective. Love is the unifying energy that can bring us together. It must also be a conscious choice made day by day. As time moves on and accelerates, it may even need to be used moment by moment. And I'm not talking about cloying sentimental love. I'm talking about when we ask ourselves or a person or a group who needs assistance, how can I help? It's not looking at it and dictating, I think they need this help. It's about asking them, giving them the choice. How can I help you? What is the best way that I can help you? Then you empower the other person in a loving way with choice where they get to decide what the help is they most need. So that's one really good way. Relief, appreciation, and gratitude of such actions leads to moments of quiet joy and peace, even celebration, bonding, unity. There is nothing so moving in a movie, as movies being the storytelling vehicles of our age, as when two adversaries suddenly discover a common ground between them that inspires them to lay down their arms and join together in a common cause. This creates fertile ground for the expansion of human consciousness. And I would just say here that we have come out of one of the most divisive and violently separating political presidential elections ever. Last year in 2016, it left all of us kind of reeling in shock no matter where we were, no matter what side of the political fence we were on. And I'm here to tell you that we've got to put this kind of separation aside. We really have to, because it really doesn't matter who's in the White House. It doesn't matter who you voted for. It matters that we're all human beings living under this scourge of these elites, the cabal, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them. We're living under their yoke. And they want to keep us divided and conquered because they know the power of us if we get together. When you look at the results that are produced by the kind of information that is put out to the world, information that divides, information and buzzwords that get people polarized against each other, fighting and everything else like that, they are doing this specifically to keep us from uniting and finding out just how powerful we truly are when we get together. They do not want us to ever discover that power. And it's a power we must discover to take our world back. And I feel that one of the really important things about coming together in common cause, coming together energetically to create a better world through the power of our visualization, our thoughts, our creativity, and our emotional energy, infusing it, once we do all that, we can take our world back. And this is the thing they do not want us to discover, ever. This is the thing they fear the most. So this is the thing that we need to do. And it's very important to learn to agree to disagree with those where we have maybe different opinions, because our lives are hanging in the balance. Divided we fall, united we stand, and united we expand and evolve. Okay, so I think I'm going to close my talking part here and start taking some questions. And I'll just finish up with this. This is from the end of this chapter. Yeah, go ahead and get one more page up here. If we distill everything down to love or fear, we have two different vibrations. One, love, is resonant, self-creative, self-sustaining, and ever-expansive. Through kindness, joy, sharing, bonding, and unity, which inspires more of the same, love has the capacity to build upon itself continually and exponentially. The other, fear, is dissonant, parasitic, and entropic. Entropy meaning it winds down to its own destruction. It takes the love vibration and twists it into fear of loss, fear of destruction, fear of, whatever, fill in the blank. It is love perverted. It has to keep twisting love inside out, continuing to apply the off-note fear of to the original true vibration of the love note to keep itself alive. So even again in this way, we have the true vibrational beauty of love and the dissonance of what fear would twist love into for its own ends, out of its own fear of ceasing to exist. Years ago, when I worked with people helping them to clear fear, anger, and grief through dance and drumming, I discovered that once these emotions were drummed or danced to completion and release, an energy and rhythm of joy would flood into them, energizing them. The rhythms of an energy of fear, anger, and grief would spend themselves in about 3 to 7 minutes of moving expression. The rhythms and movements of an energy of joy outlasted the negative emotional states by up to 5 times that, 3 to 7 minutes, sometimes longer. So once people had drummed out their emotions of fear or anger or grief, then the joy would come in, and then we'd find ourselves in a drumming circle that would go on for sometimes 30 minutes, 45 minutes, sometimes an hour, and it could even go further, except sometimes people's arms are getting a little tired from drumming. So that's kind of how that would be. Let's see here. This was one more way in which I learned the power of love and all its associated states over those of fear. This puts into words what I do my best to distinguish for myself on a vibrational level. I know I'm not foolproof, but in learning this and paying attention to my intuitive feelings, I'm doing much better than I used to, trying to navigate only on my mind and emotions. So we got to bring in the spiritual component of our intuition and using our discernment and our ability to perceive in a way that can inform us and bring us together. So with that, I'm going to conclude my presentation part of this event. I'm going to start looking through the questions and seeing what I can do about answering some of your questions. Okay, let's see here. Let's get down here. And see. So let's see what else we got. And I see some thank yous here, so you're welcome. Thank you for being here. You realize that us speakers are nothing without you, the audience? We are nothing unless you listen to us. So I'm really grateful, and I'm really moved in my heart about the people that are with us tonight, that are here with me listening tonight. And hi, Crystal. And hi, Tiffany. And lots of gratitude. And let's see what else is going on. Thank you. Thank you back. Some people are having internet trouble. Okay. Yes, I will be at Mount Shasta with Corey Good. I'm looking forward to that. This is going to be a lot of fun. Let's see. Let's see what we can get here. There's so many EBEs involved in our history, it's difficult to put the pieces together to understand. Yes, that's very true. It's something that we have to do our best to sort out. So lots of thank yous. Thank you very much. Let me see if there are any questions here. Okay. Just trying to look here. Yeah. Yeah, Jody, you're right about Dr. Dispenza and his books on law of attraction. And The Secret did not teach it very well. I totally agree with you there. Mm-hmm. So people are doing... Okay, here's another question from Jody. Question is, do you think people who are subjected to voice of God technology are not affected if they live in a high enough vibration? And part B, could the power of thought also overcome and block it out if you were strong enough? Let's see. I'm not really familiar with the voice of God technology. That's something, maybe you can post a link in the Meet Our Cosmic Neighbors group, and I can learn more about that. Let's see. When I think about the high enough vibration, I think of the movie, the Celestine Prophecy. And I really like the movie. I love the book too. And I love the movie because it gives such a wonderful representation of raising one's energy to the point that you become invisible to lower energies. In this case, soldiers that were looking for these people at the Celestine ruins. And most of the people had their energy and the vibration raised to the point that the soldiers couldn't see them. But there were a few people who got afraid, lost their vibration, and then the soldiers caught them. So that's kind of what that makes me think of, Jody, as far as that. So it's really about learning and, just learning to hold the vibration no matter what, and being confident enough in yourself to hold it no matter what. That's what I would say for now, and I hope that that's a good enough answer for now until I know more about the Voice of God technology. Okay? Alrighty. And whoever's sharing the video, thank you so much. I very much appreciate that. And Heidi is saying, I get that with energy vampires. I can feel them a mile off. Yeah, so can I sometimes too. And let's see. Yeah, musical dissonance has its place. So that's from Sean Hessman. Dissonance does have its place in music, and it can be beautiful in its own way. So, but when it comes to us in information, that's when we really need to pay attention to its feel in our body so that we can assess if something's off. And don't blame yourself if you can't figure out what's off, okay? As long as you know something feels off, then you can take that bit of information that you just heard or read or saw in a video and file it away in the file in your mind that says, don't know, need more data. Okay, so if you have something that feels off or even neutral and you're just not sure about it yet, just file it away into that file, and then later on you'll probably run across information that will confirm or deny that piece of information for you. So that's one of the things I would do. And I see a lot of my nice friends here. Thank you very much for sharing the video again. Let's see here. Alrighty. Yep, united we stand, and divided we fall. And we could fall pretty far. We don't want that to happen. Oh, thank you. We got Corey here, at least for a minute. Thank you, Corey, for showing up and gracing my Facebook Live with your presence. I really appreciate that. I'm honored. Okay. Okay, there's a thank you. Thank you. We love you. I love you too. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here doing this. You know, it's really all about love, you know. And I love this planet, and I love all the life it supports, including human beings. And I just want so badly to see us become who we're meant to be. I want it with all my heart. Okay, here's a question from Emma Gold. How do you feel we can approach people who are obviously in reaction to their own shadow work and offer them healing? Well, that's something that has to be we have to be careful of. With trying to help other people, I tend to follow the Star Trek Prime Directive. If it's a friend that I really know that I can talk to, I will tell them what I think, and I'll just preface it by saying, you know, I have something I want to tell you, and you can accept it or you can throw it out, but I feel that I need to tell you for your own good, and then you take the information and do whatever your free will dictates with it. Okay, so sometimes that's what I would take, because a Native American man many years ago told me one time, if you see someone who is a friend who's about to make a very big mistake in their life, you should tell them what you see them about to do. And then what they do with that information is their business. But at least you have done the thing that in your own integrity to speak up for that person and try to tell them something that could save them from a bad experience. And sometimes it won't. And if it doesn't, then that is because that person needs that experience either karmically or for their soul's growth. So sometimes we have to know when to share, how much to share, and when to just share it and then back away and let that person make their own free will choice. Because we don't want to become like the programming controlling agents in the world. We always want people to be given their free choice to work things out for themselves. So I hope that answers your question, Emma, at least a bit. Okay? And more thank yous. And I really want to look at that Voice of God technology. Thank you, Sean Hessman. Okay. And let's see what else we've got here. And lots of people sharing the video. Thank you so much. Nick Klein, I sent you a message. Would love it if you get time to reply. Okay, thank you very much, Nick. I will do my best. I might have to record a little message and put the recording there, because I'm trying not to type any more than I absolutely have to right now. I'm having really bad repetitive stress pain in my neck and shoulders and arms and hands from too much keyboarding, too much texting, and it's locked up here like somebody poured cement. That's how tight it is. So that's the reason why a lot of messages go unanswered for a long period of time, because I'm in a lot of pain, and I'm trying to keep up with so much on the internet, and I don't want to become a Borg. So I got to take some time off from it too. So don't want to be wired into the internet. So, and this is from Eva Marie. Thank you so much, sweetie. Thank you so much. I appreciate you too. And looking forward to looking at that Voice of God technology. Here is Felix Bowen, and he said, have you ever had any more experiences with those fifth density beings in dreams or signs or synchronicity in your life? Yes, I do. I have ongoing communion with them all the time. I have another spiritual guide who has stepped forward in my life in a big way, and my teaching right now is primarily with that spiritual guide, and that spiritual guide will remain nameless for now. So I definitely am having the experiences, and I remember one time, maybe you'll appreciate this, just a little anecdote from one of my hypnosis sessions. One of my hypnosis sessions with a friend who also does quantum healing hypnosis took me back to Lyra, to being a child on Lyra, and walking into the room where my mother was preparing something to eat, I believe. And she turned around, and her face just lit up, and she was so glad to see me, with her beautiful bluish turquoise skin and dark hair. And she was so glad to see me. And the reason that I had that experience, we found out at the end of the hypnosis, was because my mother in this life, who I loved very much, we had a very strained relationship. I wasn't really the daughter she wanted. I was this strange, otherworldly kind of child who wasn't interested in dressing up and dancing like Shirley Temple, or doing all the things that she was hoping I would do. So we had kind of some difficulties when I was growing up, but before she passed, we did make peace. And the reason that I saw that in the hypnosis with my Lyran mother was at the end of it, when my higher self was speaking at the end of the quantum healing session, the answer came was, we really needed you to see a truly positive, truly loving mother image from a mother that accepted you and loved you just exactly as you were. And that's why I was given that experience in hypnosis, to have that positive, totally unconditionally loving mother image to take with me away from that hypnosis session. And it really has enriched my life to have that experience and see my Lyran mother and see just how unconditionally she loved me and appreciated me for exactly who I was. So that was really nice. Let's see. So I think I'm at the end of the questions. Are there any more questions that anyone has for me before we close this Facebook Live for today? Anything more? Okay, well, I'm not seeing anything being written. So I guess we're going to go ahead and close for tonight. And I thank you all very, very much for being here. You know, my friends, my followers. I care about all of you very much. I'm kind of like Robert Dean. I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with the human race. I love what we can become. And I really want to see us become that. And unconscious, unawakened humanity is very difficult to deal with, especially for those of us who are empathic. So that's what I mean about the love-hate relationship with the human race. But mostly it's a relationship of love where I just want to see all of us become what we can become, okay? What we truly can become. And I'll leave you with this one last thought, that if we are able to come together, put our differences aside, agree to disagree, the extraterrestrials that are beneficial and spiritually evolved and who want all those good things for us because they're our star family, they're going to read that energy on this planet, and they're going to know that because we've come together and we've put our differences aside and we've agreed to disagree about things, we are paving the way for contact. Because as Bashar said years ago, who would want to land on an insane asylum where all the inmates are armed? You know, and that's really kind of how it is down here. It's kind of funny, but not. Because we are fighting with each other so much and we attack differences in each other so much that how could extraterrestrials who are going to be even more different come down here? We've got to come together in a way for our own benefit and so that we can usher in an age of contact. Clear, open, beneficial contact where we can heal our planet and make it into the place that it really ought to be and make ourselves into who we need to become. Thank you so much for being with me. Thank you. Okay. Alrighty. Good night.